Hello, I am sat at our studio desk, as it were. This is where we do the brunt of our recording for all the stuff that we do over there in our little guitar shot. And we've decided that we want to get some new speakers. And as you can see by the monitors I've got here, I've already decided on the brand that I want. Adam Audio have been one of the industry leaders in studio monitors for the past 30 years or so. Their previous iterations of monitors like the A7Xs are some of the biggest staples in studios all up and down the country. However, last year the AX series, as it was known, was upgraded to the A series, of which these monitors are a part. Now, we're not going to be putting these ones in specifically because we've actually got something that's a little bit bigger for our bigger room. These are better for near field, so smaller bedrooms and stuff. However, setting up monitors can be a bit tricky. I mean, you know, I've got to plug all of this in. Where's my power supply? What does this microphone do? Well, I'm a bit confused, but luckily I've brought a friend along to help. Hello, mate. So this is Alex Godfrey. He is a product specialist for Adam Audio, and he's come here to help us set up our new monitors and have a little chat about the A series range as a whole.
Yeah, really look forward to it. Yeah, let's get stuck in.
Cool.
Good choice.
Thank you very much. So firstly, what is the A series?
So the A series is our high-end monitors built to reveal. The main purpose of them, the headline that we run with, is that they are accurate and they tell you exactly what you're going to be listening to. So they don't hide anything from you while you're mixing and mastering, which is really important, so that when you listen back to your mix on a bigger pair of hi-fi or something, then you know exactly what you're working with. The A series has a brand new redesigned cabinet, so we've got front firing bass reflex ports, we've got an Ethernet port on the back which allows us control of the actual parameters on the speaker, and we can access that through A control, which is also new with the A series, and we'll have a look at that in a bit more detail. We've also got onboard DSP and memory, so that you can fire on some voicings that are obtained from Room Calibration, which we'll have a look at as well. So it's really exciting stuff, and yeah, so all of that combines to make a really clear, well-defined low mid-range and a very, very tight low distortion overall performance.
So you mentioned accuracy. Now, for people who perhaps are a bit unsure about that, why would you want a monitor to be accurate? Or what's the purpose in accuracy? Surely you just want them to sound good, right?
Well, ultimately, yes, the end result is you want your mix to sound really, really good. But in order to make it sound really good, you need to know exactly how it really sounds, right? So if you're mixing and mastering on a really accurate pair of speakers, you'll hear all of the indiscrepancies and imperfections in your mix. But if you can then mix those out, when you actually take that track to a really nice big pair of speakers, which perhaps aren't focused so much on accuracy as like a big bass boost, then your track's going to sound even better. Whereas if you're mixing on something with like a pair of speakers that sounds really good, loads of like bass boost, when you then take them elsewhere to like a flatter pair of speakers, then it's just not going to sound as good.
So accuracy is important then in speakers, and the A series are built to truly reflect that.
So some of the key ways that we go about doing that is, as I mentioned, we have a super flat frequency response, meaning that there's no boosts or losses wherever possible in the overall performance. So from the bass to the mids to the high end, it's trying to be as flat as possible. Another way we do that is as low a distortion as possible as well. Innately in any speaker, there's always going to be a tiny bit of distortion, and it's always going to be like subliminal. You're never going to listen and hear the distortion there, but it is there. So minimizing that is really important to get a truthful image of your mix.
So as we've already mentioned, the A series is an upgrade on the previous iterations of Adam speakers, but what makes them better? Like, what's improved in them?
So something I really like about these speakers is that we've now got a few improvements that essentially mean you can listen for longer without getting tired. That's really important if you're mixing and you're mastering, just to be able to really get into your track for hours on end without your ears getting physically tired from the mix. Obviously you can get like psychologically tired from hearing the same track over and over again. We can't do anything about that, that's your user decision.
Yeah.
But in terms of the speaker design, there's a few clever tricks that you can do to physically reduce the physical like strain on your ears. There's basically two ways of going about that we've improved. One is lower distortion. The other thing that we've done to improve this is improved sort of focus and directionality from the speakers. That's with a really nice high propagation system waveguide, HPS waveguide. That's this bit around the tweeter here.
Yeah.
That sort of funnels the sound into a nicer, tighter sweet spot. There's loads of benefits to that, but to speak to how that benefits the fatigue issue, so it's effectively firing the sound more in one direction. That's less work for your ears to do in terms of echolocation to understand where all the sound is coming from. One of the amazing things that our ears does very, very well is tells you about your surroundings based on what it's hearing. So if a speaker kind of just throws sound out into the room all over the place, it's quite a lot of work for your brain to do to kind of locate where all that sound's coming from. But if the sound is a bit more, there's less of it as reflections and more of it is straight from the source, then it's less work for your brain to do under the hood, figuring out where everything's coming from.
So, with Adam, I'm going to be getting really accurate response from the monitors, and not only that, I can mix and listen to sound longer without my ears getting tired, which is perfect when we're sat in here trying to get the audio right for a release that's looming or a deadline. So that is great. But what else sets the A series apart, not just from the previous iterations, but from other brands on the market?
So one of Adam's proudest achievements is this accelerated ribbon tweeter, which is at the top here. You'll find that on the A series, and in particular, it's a ribbon tweeter. So it's better than a cone because the actual diaphragm on a ribbon tweeter is much, much bigger than a cone. Therefore, there's more tweeter to shake around effectively,
yes.
Which means it's better space to work with. These ribbon tweeters are really nice, all hand folded in Germany as well. And they have a frequency range of up to 50 kilohertz, which sounds ridiculous because we can't hear above 20 kilohertz most of the time. Whenever we reach the boundaries of a tweeter's capacity, it's not going to get to its end and then just drop off suddenly. It's going to gradually decline in terms of performance. Exactly, yeah. Now the roll off, that gradual decline, that's going to be happening way up in the 40k, 45k region, which is going to be of no concern to us at all. So yeah, it just really, really helps getting the very high end completely unaffected by any roll-off issues. Another really nice thing about the way the A series is built is that they've got fantastic stereo imaging. Effectively, that's a result of having very uniform design and build quality on every single individual speaker. So the pairing of each speaker, they're going to act as close to identical as we can feasibly manage, meaning that the sound coming from the left speaker and your right speaker is going to be identical, and so you get really, really good stereo imaging from them as well. And what's really, really fun and new with the A series in particular as well on these tweeters, they're rotatable. So you can actually take them out and then flip them 90 or 180 degrees. As you can see, as we've done with these ones here.
We've done it already, yeah.
That's right, yeah. So these are actually the A4Vs. Usually they would sit upright, V for vertical, H for horizontal. Yeah.
Had no idea about that.
So yeah, pretty handy. A for A series as well. Yeah. You probably got that one.
I guessed that one, but thank you anyway. Obviously, it does look kind of cool, and I always think that someone looks a bit serious when they've got their monitors on the side, as if they know something I don't.
Right.
What is the benefit of having them horizontal versus vertical?
Well, aside from the fact that they look awesome, as you've mentioned, it's good for different spaces, right? So if you're in a bit more of a compact space, sometimes it's a bit more useful to have them on the side. Particularly if your desk has got a riser that would cover typically the bottom of where the speaker is, like the cone. That can be really useful for that. So I mean, it's really all about getting the tweeters pointing at your ears. The woofer below, not so much of an issue because that kind of throws sound out a little bit less straightforward, as is the nature of lower frequencies. But it's really important to be able to get the tweeter pointed directly at your ears. So being able to rotate the waveguide to fit the speaker wherever it needs to be to achieve that is useful.
So you can have these to be rotatable, so they're vertical or horizontal. But there are Adam monitors in the range that are specifically horizontal, such as the A44H and the 77H. So what's the difference between those and these?
Well, first off, you can actually rotate the tweeter in any of the A series. So even with the horizontally aligned ones, you could put them vertical as well if that helps you get the position that you need and the tweeter straight to the ears. I mean, the first thing you'll notice if you look at the A77H and the A44H is that they've got two cones on them. Not only does it just look really cool, but that's got a really useful function in that two cones. Effectively, many hands make slight work, right? So you've got two cones, they're handling the same sort of frequency range, but they both have to work half as hard to achieve effectively the same SPL. And with the A77H, you've also got a mid-range cone as well. So there's a three-way speaker on the A77H. You've got the tweeter, you've got two 7-inch cones, and then you've also got the mid-range as well.
So you mentioned A control when we were talking about what makes these so good. And obviously you mentioned that there's an Ethernet port in the back as well. So what is A control and what makes it so good?
A control is the control software that is bundled with the A series. It basically gives you remote access to all of the voicings and speaker controls, which are usually accessible on the back panel. It gives you access to that via Ethernet, which is why we've got the control port on the back there, which is also really handy if you're setting up a rig with like loads of speakers. You know, you can get really immersive audio from Adam, so you can get like 10.1, that sort of thing going on, and then have everything plumbed in via Ethernet, allowing you just to change the controls of and the configuration of every speaker just from your laptop, which is also really handy because you can actually hear the differences in action from the listening position.
Talking about A control, obviously you mentioned room voicings. Now there's a couple of presets in there, but there's an option to set up your own, which I believe is where this microphone comes in.
That's right, yeah. So there's three voicings accessible on the back or via A control. There's pure, which is the purest, like most accurate frequency response we can get. It's totally flat. There's uniform natural response, which is just a little bit higher on the low and the high end. Makes it a little bit nicer to listen to music on. And then there's basically the custom mode where you can set up the voicing of the speaker however you want to. Now you can do that manually in A control, just like add a bit of a dip here or a bit of a boost there. Or yes, you can calibrate the speakers to your room using something like SonarWorks, and then get a profile of your room and save that onto the speaker. Big difference here is that then that profile of the room is running on the speaker and doesn't need to run in like a plug-in or a third-party application or anything like that. Anything you plug into this speaker will go through that calibration profile, taking away processing power and latency away from your mixing system.
Now, for people who don't know, why would you want to calibrate a speaker to your room? I mean, surely a speaker just sounds like a speaker, right?
It does, but then a room is going to sound like a room, unfortunately. So the room calibration is really, really cool technology. Basically, acoustically treating a room is quite difficult. It takes up quite a bit of space. You can't always do it in like a rented space, and it can get really expensive as well. So another way of approaching the problem is to calibrate the speaker to the room. And for anyone who's unaware, like a room's going to have an acoustic property to it, which is maybe going to like drop out some. It's going to have a bass trap somewhere, or like it'll like give you a weird sort of boost with a resonance on your desk or something like that. Calibration is all about sort of compensating for and negating those issues. So that your speakers sound as flat as possible in the room you're working in.
Improving your accuracy, no matter what room you're in. I mean, we're in a room here that is not built for purpose. It's not a proper studio. I mean, you know, I hate to break the illusion, but we're in the corner of our warehouse, so not exactly perfect for this. So having room calibration is going to really help us.
So effectively, what we're going to do is send out some impulse responses of weird frequency sweeps through the speakers.
Are they the things like at a festival? If you get to a festival early and they've set up the speakers in the field, they do like the.
That's it, yeah. The really avant-garde experimental electronics that you hear at the beginning of every festival, yeah. That's basically what these are going to do. Right. What that's doing is sort of, throwing out a sound at every frequency that the speaker is capable of doing. Yeah. We're also then going to record that using a totally flat microphone. In this case, the SonarWorks calibration microphone. It's completely flat frequency response, or as flat as it gets. So that frequency sweep that we hear, that's like a known variable, right? When that comes, before that leaves the speaker, the computer knows exactly what that should sound like. Yeah. If we then capture that in a microphone, that is also like a known variable, we know how the microphone should capture that sound in a perfect environment. Then we tie the two together we can sort of see where the discrepancies are, and those discrepancies will be introduced by your room, which is when we can then sort of like dip and dive the frequency response to compensate for those. So.
To match it, to make it truly flat rather than having the particular frequency of the sound reflecting back off that wall being amplified.
Exactly, yes, yes.
Well, I guess without any further ado then, let's get into that.
Sure, yeah, let's get it set up. So we're here with the SonarWorks Sound ID reference software, which there's a 60-day free trial bundled with an A-series speaker and also a SonarWorks Sound ID reference calibration microphone. And we're going to use the software and the microphone to send frequency responses, impulse responses out of the speakers and get a measurement of the room. So we're just going to get started and press play. We've set the whole room up now, and we've got the microphone in our listening position. Let's hear that in action.
Please adjust the volume of your output device. My voice should sound at normal conversation volume.
So that was us getting an impulse response of the room, and next we're going to hold the microphone up to each speaker to get another measurement. So I'm here with the left speaker. Left speaker, tell us what's the impulse response of this room?
Stay where you are. Measurements in progress. Left speaker done.
Now we're going to do the same on the right speaker.
Stay where you are. Measurements in progress. Right speaker done.
Trying to hold back a sneeze there. Now this is 37 points, so I'll just fire through them and see what we can do. But it's basically me just moving around the room where it tells me to. It's like a bit of like, it reminds me of like an iToy game from PS2 or something. Alright, so now we've got the profile of the room that we built from SonarWorks software, and we've exported that into A-Control. This is the software we were talking about earlier, which allows us to access any of the controls for the speakers. So here we could dip and duck each sort of frequency band, which is really useful because we can do that from our listening position. And we can also click this button here and we'll switch into the calibrated profile of the room. So now from our listening position, we've got the flattest frequency response that we can achieve, and it's tailored to the room, compensating for any problems in the room.
And there we have it. So we now have a fresh pair of calibrated speakers set up in our room. And the one thing that you mentioned to me, which is really nice, is obviously we're using all the software to do the calibration, and now we've loaded it onto the monitors as that preset on the back. We don't need any of the software anymore.
That's right, yeah. Any signal that is connected to that monitor is going to go through the filtering and the calibration for the room, so it doesn't need to run on your computer or anything. It's just running on the speaker now.
Yeah, so once you've done it, that's it. Like, you know, you can just put them into your room and you don't have to worry about the Ethernet cable, you don't have to worry about A control, anything like that. So it's great.
That's it, yeah. It's all good to go.
Perfect. And with that, I think we're done. So we now have a nice fresh set of Adam monitors set up in our room with a perfect room calibration to factor in for all of the inconsistencies of our room, which is great. Thank you so much, Alex, for coming down and showing us that and taking us through the process.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. If you want to check out the Adam A series, I'll leave links in the description below, and you can have a little look on the website and try and find some Adam A series speakers for you. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to see more things like this, and we will see you very soon.